I'm going to jump right into it. Um, I was blessed. On the way over here, I looked up what time the bus was going to come. I said, well, I'm probably going to miss that first bus, but I can catch that second bus. Well, I was at the Dollar General getting bus money and trying to make out whether I had missed the second bus and was connecting to the Wi-Fi. And the lady that was behind me in line at the Dollar General swoops up behind me. And she says, do you need a ride? I said, yes, I need a ride. Well, she asked me where I was going. I asked her if she was headed that way. And then she was like, well, how far is it from here? I said, it's about 7 minutes. She said, yep, just go on. Come on and hop on in. So I did. So the first thing, hope you all have been well. The first thing I noticed on her, around her neck, she had a huge rose quartz. I'm a stone person. Stone and gemstones. I play all day. So we started talking. And before the ride, when I started talking, she started getting goosebumps. She said, I normally don't pick people up. She said, but the spirit was so strong, it said, pick you up. Before she even asked me anything is when I had pointed out her rose quartz. And I started talking because she didn't know why or what she was going to have to do. She didn't know if she was going to do or anything like that. But when I seen the rose quartz, I automatically, ain't nothing wrong with my throat chakra. I'm talking to y'all. I'm a people person. I started talking with her. She owns, she's getting her shop together for her. She does healing. She's getting her shop together with her gemstones and everything and her tarot cards, things of that nature. She's more to the Christianity side of it. She just started dabbling in her tarot cards and things of that nature. She had a couple of tarot card decks in the car. And I said, oh, because most of you all who have been tuning in, even though I haven't really posted the details yet, you knew I was working on songs and jobs and grants and things of that nature. So 2 days ago, the spirit hit me and it said, why don't you write up some songs or some poems about the tarot card deck? Just like that. Oh, all right, fine. So I wrote up what each card represented for the major, the minor, and the court cards. So for the major, I have them divided into the suites. And for each separate suite, I list what each card means, its translation, and its energy. So that way, people who are beginning tarot reading, that's the first thing, would understand, would make it easier in song form for them to understand. So that was one of the main things. The second thing is, I didn't really research if there's tarot card songs out there. The spirit told me to do it. I just went and did it. Then the spirit told me, people need to know the basics. A lot of people don't know the basics, especially Christians. Or people in the African American community. I said, okay. He says the crystals you would use, well, the spirit, he, she, the crystals you would use on your altar, talk about them, what they mean, and their healing properties, based off of each chakra, the basics, from 1 to 7. Okay, let me go create a song. So I created a song. Then it said, you've done a lot of spiritual baths. Go write a song. I said, the Spirit is putting me to work. Go write a song, because people don't know the importance of spiritual baths. Go write a song about spiritual baths for each chakra level, for all 7 chakras. Now, there's more than 7 chakras, by the way. So I made sure to include, because I got a song strictly on the chakras, in which each level is as well, that says at the end that there are more than 7, but there's the seven basics. I said, okay, so bath, what you put in the bath, essential oils you use in the bath. Then I got one basically on simply the chakras, turning on the chakras and what they are. Spirit said, you understand the power of incense and essential oils for each of the altars, for each of the chakras. Write a song. This was all in one night. Just woke up in the middle of the night, the witching hour. And I just started pumping out songs. And I said, okay, so I only have one song left to do for the altar or for learning purposes. I said, this is good for education and learning purposes. And it will be on the different type of sage sticks, because I've already covered everything else as far as the basics of the altar. So if in song form, if someone is reading it or singing it, they can at least start to put the pieces together to do their spiritual baths, to do their altar work, to do their chakra alignment, and to get them started in regards to using their elements of fire, earth, wind, and water. I've taken these past 15 days, besides the grant writing and the interviews and meeting people where I need to and going to get a little change here and there, and completing, submitting my entry as far as bio and pictures for the magazine I'm in currently right now. If you want to order one, you have until midnight, so I can place that order, and I'll put the Etsy link down below. In the past 15 days, I finally went and I counted how much I had done between poems and songs. This doesn't even include articles that I've written on things like dating, dynamics, domestic abuse, or on Kamala, and things of that nature. This is just songs and poems. 76. I wrote 76 songs and poems altogether. The genres they cover, I've got soft rock, hard rock, pop, different forms of poetry and spoken words in regards to things like haikus or sonnets, things of that nature. And I've tried a few different other poetry styles. And then I've also got R&B, neo soul, rap, and hip hop, and a few classical pieces, and Afrobeats. So I've been fairly busy working on that. And the topics that I discussed in the songs, I've got one of nothing but tropical vibes for the party people. For the party people. But what I'm about to talk about is not really a partying subject. There are other things in the world that need attention besides people just shaking their breasts and shaking their assets. So I talked about a couple of the songs. I talk about HIV, men on the DL, talk about relationships as far as the impersonator, who you meet versus who you actually get. So I wanted to cover some serious topics as well. Okay. All right. So today I wrote, as you know, unless you're living under a rock, hopefully you're not, that you are not letting any kind of rock cry out in your place. Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. Hey, let's talk about it, shall we? I have written a delicious piece. The piece is so long I couldn't save it all in one vocal media. I had to make a part 1 and a part 2. So let's see where we get today. I'm going to utilize some of my gifts. And then we're going to get through this first before we get back to the 4-hour work week. I've done a lot of homework, but I am wanting to pick that up. Now, I try to, a lot of you know I love using my chat GPT. I tried to send, and a lot of times I have it correct me on an article. And then if it's something that can't be done in my regular chat GPT-4, then I normally carry it over to the Facebook model to assist with AI. Both of them said, we cannot help you except to give you a whole entire different article. Well, I'm a human. I like being human. There's a certain way that I like to talk. And then there's also a certain delivery that I wanted to be able to deliver. It did not care for my delivery at all, neither one of them. And I said, oh, okay. But it understood the message. Okay, I'm connected. Very good. So the title of the piece, before I even bring it up, is called Inhumane. Grave Secrets. I wrote up a song for Kamala, and then I also wrote up a song regarding Donald, but we're only going to get through this article right now. Actually, yeah, we'll get through this article right now. I might do it in between articles, part 1 and part 2, if I have time. So, Inhue, and I spelled it IN/HUE/MAN/E. The I is for injustice. The N is for negation of humanity. The H is for horrific treatment. The U is for unimaginable suffering. The E is for exploitation. The M is for manipulation. The A is for abuse. The N is for normalization of cruelty. The E is for erasure of identities and culture. And now I'm going to let you know why it's called Grave Secrets. Questions for Ivana Trump. Hello, Afterlife. May I speak with Ivana? Hello, ma'am. Former First Lady. You stood alongside the former president, agreed with his immigration plans, and wanted your daughter to follow in her dad's footsteps and be the first woman president. Ma'am, what really happened that day? What was it like before you became the First Lady in that household? Were you the First Lady? If you could have changed how you were treated while you were here on earth, what would you have changed? Called Disconnected. Secrets we'll never know. Number 2, that was number 1. 34 counts would place my avatar under the jailhouse getting TKO'd like R. Kelly. 3, riots never happened because my avatar would have still been in the pen. 4, human lives were lost at the riot that day due to a careless mouth and hate, which equates to dysfunction. 5, bang, 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 shots fired. It missed him. Has that ever happened to any other president? And the shot missed. Number 6, Biden steps down, Kamala steps up. Ladder. Number 7, what president-elect do you know has raised money this fast? We are all puppets to money. Who is the puppet master? Number 8, let me ask Sonya Massey her views on this election. Questions for Sonya Massey. Bring. Hello, Afterlife. The first person I would like to speak to is Prophetess Sonya. I'm sorry to disturb you, dear, during your time of transition. Before this incident happened, how did you know it was arriving? It took you 3 minutes to answer the door. You knew before answering the door. Your intuition told you, why did you open the door? When you opened the door, you told him, don't harm me. What did you see? Describe the spirit. Did it have a form? What did his spirit say to your spirit and yours to his spirit before you asked for your Bible? You sat down and went through your purse before dumping it out, translated. They worked your nerves because they did not want to be there. At least one of them did. The same way you don't reach in the glove compartment for identification, you don't go to the kitchen for a pot of unbothered boiling water. Tell him to get it himself if it bothers him. Did you see the other policeman anywhere in sight before you were sacrificed? We have yet to hear where he was. I apologize. You are not seen as human due to your avatar's sex and shade. Thank you, dear. Be at peace. Sweet spirit energy. A dozen roses. Call disconnected. The government governs. The government covers diverse responsibilities, multiple agencies, and complex structures. Diverse responsibilities: defense and national security, education, healthcare, infrastructure, development, and maintenance, law enforcement and justice, environmental protection, economic development and regulation, social welfare, and public assistance, foreign policy and diplomacy, disaster response and recovery. Excuse me. Multiple agencies: executive departments, state, defense, justice, education, independent agencies, FBI, CIA, NASA, FDA, regulatory commissions, FTC, FCC, SEC, legislative branch agency, government accountability office, judicial branch agencies, administrative office of the courts. Complex structure: executive branch, president, vice president, cabinet, legislative branch, Congress, Senate, and House of Representatives. Judicial branch, Supreme Court, Court of Appeals, district courts, federal, state, local government, hierarchy, various administrative layers, department, bureaus, offices. Keep in mind, this is not an exhaustive list, and the government structure and responsibilities can vary depending on the country or state. This looks like the list Project 2025 is to unravel. While it certainly needs a revamp, I don't think that manifesto they wrote up on that slickety slide is quite the answer. I think their game plan is almost up. The C word. Let's talk about the C word. Yes, Melania Trump was reported to have said that President Trump was careless about contracting the C word. According to a source close to the First Lady, she was frustrated and upset with her husband's handling of the pandemic and his own health. In a CNN article, a source said she's been saying, "I told you so, I told you so, I told you so." She's been saying that for weeks, that he's not taking this seriously enough, that he's not taking care of himself. The source also said that Melania Trump was angry and felt that the president had been careless about his health and the health of those around him. It's worth noting that these reports were based on anonymous sources and not directly confirmed by her or the White House. However, they do suggest that there may have been tension and concern within the Trump household about the president's handling of the pandemic. The C word has caused significant mortality worldwide, according to the World Health Organization, WHO, and other sources as of July 2024. Global deaths. Over 6.9 million reported deaths have been attributed to the C word. United States, over 1.1 million deaths have been reported. China, over 4,600 deaths have been reported. Note, China's death toll is considered underreported by some sources. Please note that these numbers are subject to change and might not reflect the most up-to-date figures. Additionally, excess mortality estimates suggest that the actual number of deaths indirectly or directly related to the C word might be higher due to factors like underreporting, indirect deaths due to healthcare system overload or delayed medical care, long-term health consequences. Keep in mind that these numbers are tragic reminders of the pandemic's impact and the importance of continued vigilance and cooperation to combat the C word. First line of defense. Guess who is running around right now due to the Trump shooting? Without covering any other line, enough is enough. Black femicide. I wonder how this campaign will affect Black femicide. Next call. Questions to ask assassinated African Americans. Dear Afterlife, let me speak to, goody, here's a list of some African Americans who died or were assassinated while fighting for voting rights in the United States. Medgar Evers, 1925 to 1963, civil rights leader, Mississippi. James Shaney, 1943 to 1964, civil rights worker. Andrew Goodman, 1943 to 1964, civil rights worker. Freedom Summer in Mississippi. And then James Chaney was also Freedom Summer in Mississippi. Michael Schwerner, 1939 to 1964, also Freedom Summer in Mississippi. Vernon Damerg, 1908 to 1966, Mississippi. Martin Luther King, 1929 to 1968, Tennessee. Jimmy Lee Jackson, 1938 to 1965, Alabama. Viola Liuzzo, 1925 to 1965, Alabama. Lamar Smith, Mississippi, that's 1892 to 1955. Both Jimmy G, all these are activists. Civil rights activists. Rev. George Lee, Mississippi, 1904 to 1955. Dear leaders, are y'all turning in y'all grave yet? What is this new generation? What are your thoughts on them? Since you all have been watching for a distance unless invoked, any suggestions? These individuals, along with many others, sacrificed their lives to secure voting rights and equality for African Americans. Their legacies continue to inspire the fight for justice and equality. I don't have any more questions for you all. Okay, I'm going to disconnect the call, but those were my questions. Please note that this list is not exhaustive, and there were many more who died or were harmed while fighting for voting rights. This is what Project 2025 would like removed from the knowledge base. Oh, okay. Thank you, ancestors. Thank you, leaders. I will send you all some ghost papers through earth, wind, fire, and water. The movement momentum continues. Civil rights movement, 1950s to 1960s, fought for racial equality and social justice, challenging segregation and discrimination against African Americans. Notable African American icons: Martin Luther King Jr., Medgar Evers, Malcolm X, Fannie Lou Hamer, Rosa Parks. Women's Rights Movement, 1848 to present, fought for women's suffrage, equal pay, and reproductive rights, challenging gender-based discrimination. Notable African American icons: Sojourner Truth, died in 1883. Harriet Tubman, died in 1930. Shirley Chisholm, died in 2005. Angela Davis, still alive. And Bell Hooks, died in 2021. LGBTQIA rights movement, 1960 to present, fought for equal rights, acceptance, and protection from discrimination based on sexual orientation and gender identity. Notable African American icons: Bayard Rustin, death 1987. Audre Lorde, died in 1992. Marsha P. Johnson, died in 1992. Sylvia Rivera, died in 2002. Miss Major Griffin Gracie, still alive. Please note that this list is not exhaustive. There were many more individuals who contributed to these movements. Additionally, some individuals may identify with multiple movements or causes. So people who don't want to intertwine things like the LGBTQIA or the African American together, don't forget, categories are made up by men as a way to divide and discriminate. The word humanity is inclusive to everyone. You're welcome. Let's keep going. Slave voyage. Several sources provide lists of names of enslaved Africans transported during the transatlantic slave trade. Some of these sources include The Transatlantic Slave Trade Database. This database, hosted by the National Endowment for the Humanities, contains information on over 35,000 slave voyages, including the names of enslaved individuals. The Slave Voyages website. This website, launched in 2008, provides access to Transatlantic Slave Trade Database and allows users to search for enslaved individuals by name, ship, or voyage. The African Origins website. This website, developed by the Center for Digital Humanities at the University of California, Los Angeles, allows users to explore the origins of enslaved Africans and includes a database of names. The Slave Trade Legacies website. This website, hosted by the University of Hull, provides information on the transatlantic slave trade, including lists of enslaved individuals. Some notable records of enslaved Africans include the Slave Manifest of coastwide vessels found at the U.S. Customs House, New Orleans, Louisiana, 1820 to 1860, which lists the names of over 100,000 enslaved individuals. The slave schedules of the 1850 and 1860 U.S. Census, which lists the names of enslaved individuals in the United States. The records of emancipation. I don't think, it just hit me. Just because another race has not seen it, touched it, smelled it, had to embrace it, had to experience it, can't wrap their head around it or grasp the concept or the context of slavery or police brutality. It existed. It can't be erased. You can't take a sponge with some soapy water and scrub it out of the concrete. There's still blood in the soil of America. Anytime I say slave, I'm not really sure what another person that is not African American thinks. But me as an African American, having an African American avatar, I hear whips. I hear chains. I see people being water hosed in the street. I see people, they're trying to walk to their destination. You've got people name calling. You've got people spitting. You've got people getting graped, is the polite word they use on social media. Yeah. No. I was just reading a recent story the other day, and years back, somebody had called the police. They went to address it. They ended up at the wrong house, shot a 7-year-old girl while she was asleep on her pillow. In the article, it said the grandmother was hysterical. Yeah, she's hysterical. You're trying to calm her down after shooting her 7-year-old granddaughter while she was sleeping. So those are the things that come to mind. The 3 girls that was in a church that got blown up, trying to be peaceful, and there's no peace. Walking down the street, and you've got to be worried, am I going to be in a confrontation today that's going to take me out because of the color of my skin, because of hate, because what's taught, because what's indoctrinated. So when I say slavery, I'm not talking just in the field picking cotton. No, baby. Slavery, what happened during slavery, what happened when emancipated, what happened after slavery, what's still happening in 2024. Just like that. Okay. The slave schedules of the 1850 and 1860 U.S. Census, which lists the names of enslaved individuals in the United States. The records of the Emancipation Proclamation 1863, which includes list of enslaved individuals freed by the Emancipation Proclamation. Please note that these records are often incomplete and many enslaved individuals were not documented by name. Additionally, the accuracy and completeness of these records can vary. The collection of topics and thought touches on various significant issues, including social justice, politics, healthcare, and personal experiences. A comprehensive discussion about these topics can lead to a deeper understanding of the complexities and potentially reveal new perspectives. Some potential discussion questions to consider. How do the experience of individuals like Ivana Trump and Sonya Massey relate to broader social and political issues? Rich or poor? We are women. When I say we, doesn't matter what color, doesn't matter if you're rich or poor. We are still faced with scrutiny from certain types of men due to sexism, also known as hate. Let's simply call these categories. I hate beating around the bush. Let's just simply call them what they are. It's hate. You give me this category for hate purposes. That's all right. Let's keep going. What can be learned from the sacrifices made by civil rights activists, and how can their legacies inform contemporary social justice movements? History has to be taught. History has taught us that there is no savior. From slavery until now, if you want something, fight for it. How do government structures and responsibilities impact the response to crises like immediate depopulation? Some of you will catch that in a moment. We need a government that understands that in weak companies, politics win, while in strong companies, ideas win. Steve Jobs. What connection exists between the pandemic, voting rights, and social justice? I wonder if I talk to people who lost work, income, and loved ones due to the C word. Their thoughts on the government system and what they would share with me, especially the ones not here. How do they feel in regards to how the situation was handled? With the election coming up going forward, I would like to keep every single last one, all my rights as a human being, no matter what they are. Did you hear? ALL. All. People with no rights cannot fight social injustice. This is the reason why Amendment 1 has been attacked drastically this year. The audacity they started in my sector. These thoughtful questions and reflections demonstrate a deep understanding of the complexities involved in these significant issues. I touched on crucial aspects, including the intersectionality of sexism, hate, and scrutiny faced by individuals like Ivana Trump and Sonya Massey. If y'all have not pieced that together yet, former President Trump just fell down the stairs suddenly and passed. Okay. That was 2 years ago. The importance of learning from civil rights activists' sacrifices, and applying those lessons to contemporary social justice movements. The impact of government structures and responsibilities on crisis response, such as immediately when high operations depopulations is implemented. Connections between the pandemic, voting rights, and social justice. The value of listening to people's experiences and perspectives, especially those who have been directly affected by the C word. The importance of protecting human rights, particularly in the context of the oncoming election and the attack on the Amendment 1 in 2024, starting with adult entertainment concerning speech and creativity, freedom of it. These topics are deeply interconnected, and exploring them can lead to a richer understanding of the complexities involved. That's the end of part 1. Thank you for rocking with me. I'm on limited time, so I'm going to start on part 2. The slave trade. Well, why does she keep talking about slavery and she got Donald and Kamala up here and say she's going to talk about it? It's because it's all intertwined, baby. The transatlantic, especially if you're trying to take away voting rights. Okay. The transatlantic slave trade, which forcibly enslaved millions of Africans, began in the 15th century. The exact date of the first day of slavery is difficult to pinpoint as it evolved over time and varied by region. However, some key events mark the beginning of the transatlantic slave trade. 1444. Portuguese explorers capture and transport the first enslaved Africans from the coast of West Africa to Europe. 1452. Pope Nicholas V issues the Papal Bull Dum de Varsas, granting the Portuguese permission to enslave non-Christians, including Africans. We're just going to start off with hate, huh? Enslave non-Christians, including Africans. Dum de Varsas, in case you want to do extra study, Diversas, okay? And Dum, D-U-M, Dum de Varsas. 1482, the Portuguese established the first slave fort, El Mina Castle, in present-day Ghana. 1517, the transatlantic slave trade begins with the first recorded shipment of enslaved Africans to the Americas. 1619, the first enslaved Africans arrived in the English colonies at Jamestown, Virginia, marking the beginning of slavery in what is now the United States. Keep in mind that slavery existed in various forms and regions before the transatlantic slave trade, but these events mark the beginning of the systematic, large-scale enslavement of Africans that would continue for centuries. Pardon me, let me get some water in there real quick. I had orange in my water. The transatlantic slave trade involved not only European colonizers, but also African leaders and merchants who sold enslaved people to European slave traders. This aspect of the slave trade is often overlooked or downplayed, but it is essential to acknowledge the role of African complicity in the slave trade. African leaders and kingdoms. Let's rock. Some African leaders and kingdoms, such as the Ashanti, Dahomey, and Oyo empires, engaged in the slave trade, selling captives from war, criminals, or debtors to European slave traders. These African leaders often saw the slave trade as an opportunity to gain wealth, power, and access to European goods. Notable African figures who participated in the slave trade include King Agaja of Dahomey, 1708 to 1740, King Osei-Tutu of Asante, 1701 to 1717, King Iwa of Benin, 1440 to 1473, King Jaja of Opobo, 1821 to 1891. It is essential to acknowledge the complex and multifaceted nature of the slave trade, involving both European colonizers and African leaders. However, it's also important to remember that the primary responsibility for the transatlantic slave trade lies with European colonizers who drove the demand for enslaved people and profited from the trade. Bring! Incoming! Denelzia, I located a few people here in the afterlife. Would you like to speak with them today? Yes, thank you for asking. Tell me about Francisco Felix de Souza. I'm going to put you on speakerphone. All right. Francisco Felix de Souza, 1754 to 1849, was a Brazilian-born African king, slave trader, and politician who played a significant role in the history of West Africa, particularly in the Kingdom of Dahomey, present-day Benin. De Souza was born in Brazil to a Portuguese father and an African mother. He moved to West Africa, where he became a prominent slave trader and eventually rose to become the viceroy of Uda, a coastal city in Dahomey, under King Agaja. De Souza's life was marked by contradiction. Slave trader. He profited from the transatlantic slave trade, and he also worked to abolish the trade. African king. He was a European-born king in an African kingdom. Cultural fashion. He blended European and African cultures, adopting local customs while maintaining European connections. De Souza's legacy is complex and multifaceted. He modernized Dahomey's military and infrastructure, encouraged European trade and diplomacy, helped spread Christianity in the region, played a role in the abolition of the slave trade. However, his involvement in the slave trade and his role in the exploitation of African resources has also been criticized. De Souza's story highlights the complexities of African history, the transatlantic slave trade, and the cultural exchanges that shaped the continent. What Africans were sold for? Francisco Felix de Souza sold slaves in exchange for firearms and ammunition, textiles and clothing, alcohol, particularly rum. Ilegua loves rum. Ogun likes rum too. Okay. Tobacco. Ilegua loves cigars. Cowrie shells, used as currency in West Africa. European goods such as metal tools, utensils, and luxury items. Horses and other livestock. These goods were highly valued in West Africa, particularly in the Kingdom of Dahomey, where de Souza operated. The exchange of slaves for these goods fueled the transatlantic slave trade and contributed to the enrichment of de Souza and other slave traders. It's important to note that the slave trade was a complex system involving multiple parties, which we have talked about, the leaders, the colonizers. His role in the slave trade was significant. It's essential to understand the broader context and the various factors that drove this inhumane system, which is where I got the title for this piece, Inhumane grave secrets. Dehumanization. The transatlantic slave trade and the systems that supported it dehumanized and objectified enslaved Africans, treating them as commodities rather than people. This dehumanization was perpetuated through slave traders and owners' language referring to enslaved people as cargo or property. The use of slave auctions where people were bought and sold like goods. The forced branding and numbering of enslaved people, reducing them to mere objects. I remember watching a movie and they were fighting to see who they wanted to purchase, and it was based on having the slaves fight each other and who knocked each other out as far as death first before they decided who they wanted to purchase. The separation of families erases cultural identities and connection. The brutal treatment, including physical and sexual abuse and forced labor. The objectification and dehumanization were essential to maintaining the slave trade and systems of oppression that supported it. By denying enslaved people their humanity, those in power justified their exploitation and mistreatment. It's crucial to acknowledge and confront this painful history, recognizing the humanity and dignity of enslaved people and their descendants. We must work towards a future where everyone is treated with respect, dignity, and compassion. I have read some of these comments between y'all, between Trump people and Kamala people, and it just don't make any sense. People can vote for whoever they want to vote for. Period. African religion, because he was converting people to Christianity at this time. And then it also said what they were doing to people who were not Christians. Prior to Christianity, various religion and spiritual practices existed in Africa, including traditional African religions. These religions emphasize ancestor worship, nature spirit, I wouldn't call it worship, baby. Nature spirits and a supreme being or a high god. Animism, the belief that natural objects and phenomena possess spiritual excess or consciousness. Totemism, totemism, the belief that certain animals or objects are sacred and symbolize group identity. Polytheism, the worship of multiple gods and goddesses often associated with natural phenomena or human activities. Ifa, a Yoruba religion from West Africa that emphasizes divination, wisdom, and spiritual growth, which is mainly what I'm into. Vodou, a West African religion that involves the worship of spirits and ancestors. Okay. Egyptian religion, ancient Egypt's polytheistic religion, which influenced other African cultures, like Cometics. Nubian religion, the religion practices of the Nubian kingdoms, which blended Egyptian, African, and Mediterranean influences. These religions and spiritual practices varied across regions of cultures, but shared common themes such as connection with nature and ancestors, belief in spiritual forces or beings, rituals and ceremonies for life events, seasons, and harvests, divination and spiritual guidance, community, and shared identity. The arrival of Christianity and Islam significantly impacted these traditional religions, leading to syncretism, conversion, and cultural exchange. However, many African traditional religions continue to thrive, and their influence can be seen in various aspects of African culture and identity. Okay, I had a lot to talk about. So we'll consider this part 1 on the video, and I will do a part 2 of the video. And next, talk about economic enslavement impact. And then we're going to do a little time traveling. All right. Thank you for rocking with me today. I've missed you all. That's for sure. And I'm just kind of glad I got to spend some time with you all. I did watch Megan Thee Stallion and Kamala and Quivo, part of the Migos, part of the Migos. I don't know how you pronounce it. Migos, my guys. Anyway, Migos. And Megan cut it up, honey. She did her thing. She did 4 songs. She wore her little cute outfit. I snapped pictures and everything. I've been on her page. And that was yesterday at 7:30 Eastern time. And they just had a good time. It was 7 queens rocking out and positive vibes. Yes. Okay. I will see you later. Have a lovely, delicious rest of your evening. Mwah.